What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome back to rebirthedu.com. I'm your host, Kendrick, aka Also the Great. We're back again with the next installment, chapter 2 of the Cashflow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. Love this guy, man. He's definitely one of my favorites, right? So chapter 2, different quadrants, different people, right? So we're gonna kind of, man, I got something massive in my eye right now. We're going to break down a little bit of the thought process and the characteristics of each one of these quadrants so that way you can really understand them more and understand where you are and maybe why you don't necessarily want to be there. You maybe want to transition to a different quadrant. Most people are on the left side of the quadrant with the E's and the S's, but you definitely want to make a transition over to the B's and the I's because that's where you get a little bit, or really a lot more of your time freedom, and you can build wealth, right? And your money can grow exponentially. Unlike on the left side where you are essentially trading your time for money, right? And you only have a finite amount of time. So that means you're only going to be able to make a finite amount of money, right? So before we dive in, as always, hit like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already. I really appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. The few of y'all that still do, I really appreciate that, man. And make sure you tap in, leave a comment down below, man. Tap in with me and let's chop it up about some things. And as always, if you need help with your budget and you want to really talk about this money thing, book a session with me and we can chop it up. Doesn't cost you anything. Just like hitting that like the button. Doesn't cost you anything at all. It's free. So again, I appreciate you guys rocking with me. So let's dive into it. So the E quadrant, employees, right? So these are people that have a job like myself. I have a job like myself. But the employee mindset, right? That is one where you'll hear them say, well, I really don't, money's not that important. And I've said before, people that usually say that are usually losers, right? I'm not necessarily calling you a loser, but if you stay in that E category without kind of transitioning, you might end up losing. More than likely you will, but it depends on what you consider success. And most employees really value security more than they do the money, right? They want the pension plan if that's available, which I think those are pretty much are disappearing, right? But they want the insurance, they want the security. The job offers the 401k, so they want the retirement plan with that. And those are the things that they value more than getting the bag. So you might hear them say, well, I'm gonna stay here at this job because of the benefits, or they're so curious about what the benefits are of them staying at this job or getting a job. And that's usually where their mindset is. They want to get a job, they want to retire, and they want to have the benefits, right? They're usually more dependent on other people determining what their, not just what their future is going to be, but really determining their worth monetarily. Other people decide what their fate is as far as money goes. So the self-employed, now they're a little bit different, right? They don't necessarily value security. Security is always important. I mean, that's part of the reason why we're building wealth, right? So we can secure those resources, and that way they can continuously flow into our homes. But the self-employed, or the do-it-yourselfers, as Robert Kiyosaki calls them, they're really not likely to depend on others. They like to do things themselves, and they like to be in control. So the thing they value more than anything is independence. They don't want other people dictating how much money they can make, and they work really hard, and they're perfectionists, and they want to get things done their way, and they don't trust people, right? They don't necessarily like to delegate work to others because they feel like nobody can do it better than they can do it. Now, at first, that maybe sounds kind of arrogant on their part, but I want you to really think about it. Some of the people that fall into this category are lawyers and doctors and surgeons. And if you need brain surgery or something like that, this is the guy that you want doing your surgery, because he is a perfectionist and he doesn't trust everybody else, and he wants to make sure he's the one doing it because he knows, can't nobody do this better than me. I got to be the guy on top of this getting it done. So these are the people that you hire. You want to hire the self-employed guys. You want to hire the contractors that are not necessarily dependent on an employer. You want the guys that are doing this themselves. They got their own little business, or they're specialists, and they are perfectionists, and they want to get this done the way they want to get it done. The best way to do it when you do hire these people is, when you do hire them, you got to recognize that, hey, they probably know, well, ain't no probably to it, they know more than you do about this particular field, right? So if you hire a plumber, right, when he shows up, let him plumb. If you hire an electrician, let him do his job. You hire them people and you leave them alone. You let them do things the way they want to do things, right? You don't micromanage people like this and try to control them, because that's not what they're into. They're into the independence. So you got to keep that in mind when you're communicating with people in the S quadrant. Now, if this fits you, if you're the type of person that's like, I don't really like people being in control of my life, you probably fall into this category, okay? Now, the B's, on the other hand, the big business, they're different, okay? These guys are big thinkers, and they don't necessarily want to do all the work themselves, okay? They delegate and hire they have employees, and they also hire contractors like the self-employed. These are the people that can put together a team and delegate the work because they understand the ins and outs of business. There's two parts that a B person needs to have down, okay? They need to understand the technical side of business, and then they need to understand the human side of the business, right? Because these people need to be able to bring out the best in everybody that's around them and create a system that they can essentially walk away from. That's the biggest difference between the B's and the S's, okay? Let's say, for instance, you got a B and an S, right? And they want to each of them want to take a year off, a vacation, right? Well, when the B takes a year off, when he comes back, his business is probably still booming, and it's probably better than it was when he left, because he can go on vacation for life. He owns a system. He hires people to manage and operate this system, and he collects the bread off of it because that's what he does, right? Whereas the S, when he gets back from vacation, he don't have a business no more, because there's nobody doing the business. Think of like a dentist. A dentist may have a practice where, but if he's not physically doing the dental work, there's no money coming in for this guy. And if he takes a year sabbatical, he's done for. He probably loses all his clientele, and he probably has to come back and start from scratch. Whereas the B, if he owns several dentist offices and he hires dentists, he could just leave. He can leave and never return, and the money still goes to him because he owns the system and the franchises of the dentist office, and he hires people to manage those offices, and he hires specialists to do the work on the teeth, right? Hopefully y'all understand what I'm saying the difference is between a B and an S. A B owns the system, and the S essentially is the system, and it doesn't operate without him, okay? Now, both of these guys can make immense amounts of money. The S will probably make more money initially. Like every time a transaction happens, they're going to get the lion's share of the money, and it's going to be a lot of money. Whereas the B, they may get less money, but they absolutely do less work, and they're able to scale their business. And S can't scale his business. Okay, it doesn't work that way because he can only be in one place at a time, doing one thing at a time. Whereas the B can open up multiple businesses within the system and scale his money up through the roof. He's making money while he's sleeping. He's a smart fella, right? And there's very few people out here that understand both the technical side of the business and the human side of the business. And that's why there's not a lot of CEOs out here. I mean, there's a lot of them, but as far as, population goes, we're talking about a fraction of the percent of people that can actually do this at a high level and run these businesses. Okay. We're talking about the elite. So then that brings us to the I's. Well, the I's are these guys, their employees are money. Money works for them, right? And so that's essentially what they do. They make sure the money is working for them. This is the playground for the rich, right? And no matter what quadrant you're in, if you plan on building wealth, you have to transition to the I quadrant so your money can start working for you, okay? Your money is making money. This is where money is converted into wealth. We measure wealth by time, right? How much, if you stopped working right now, how much money does it take for you to survive, right? And if that, let's say that price is $1,000 a month, right? Now we're just going to use that to make the numbers simple. $1,000 a month. And if all you have is $1,000 and you stop working, right? And you have $5,000 and you don't ever work again, well, you're 5 months wealthy. Okay. Now, if you're an investor and you are generating your income from the investment, because remember, with these quadrants, that's essentially what we're talking about here is how you generate your income. Okay. So if your income is coming from the I quadrant and your money is making money and your expenses are whatever they are, and you're making more money passively in your investments than what your expenses are, then you're infinitely wealthy. That's how that works. Your money's going to keep making money and you're going to use that to pay your expenses. You're financially free, right? So it doesn't matter if you're an E, an S, or B. You have to get into this I category so that way you can build wealth and secure your future, okay? So let's sum it all up with each quadrant. The E's have a job. The S's own a job. The B's, they own a system and people work for them. And the I's, the money works for them. Okay? So let me know in the comments below what section you align in. What quadrant is your thought process? Do you think like an E, right? Where security is the most important thing for you as far as money goes. You're more concerned about security. Are you an S where you want things done your way and you don't want no help from nobody and you don't trust nobody and you value your independence more than just the money? Are you a B where your whole thought process is, man, I want to create a system and I want to delegate people within that system and I just want to kick back and watch it do its thing. After I put in the work, I want to kick back and let it do what it do and enjoy my life? Or do you have the thought process of an investor where, man, I want to be smart with my money. I want to put it in places where it's going to grow. And then I'm going to kick back and I can live my life how I want to live, right? And like I said, I've seen people go from one side to the other. I've seen people go back and forth. I just met a gentleman the other day at the cigar shop. He does really well with his money. He has some great investments and some real estate investments. and he's doing his thing. He has a PhD, but he's really passionate about teaching young folks. So he's going to use his PhD to go work at a college and essentially be an employee. He tells me this is his retirement job. So after he retires, that's what he wants to do, is go work somewhere else, because that's something he's passionate about. And he doesn't mind going back into falling into somebody else's system just because he's passionate about teaching. And they have a platform that's going to allow him to do that. So it's not, like I said, no quadrant is better than the other ones. It's important that you understand how they work, the thought process behind them, and that you make the best of whatever situation that you're in, or change the situation that you're in based on your thought process and how you're gonna manage your money, right? So we'll see y'all for the next chapter tomorrow. I know this was a long video, but this was a long chapter, and it's really important that you understand these quadrants, because that is the core of what happens in this book. So yeah, holla at your boy, man. Hit me up if y'all need some help with anything. I'm out here.